Hello, everybody. Welcome to Silk Masquerades. I'm still trying to fix whatever happened to my camera. So if you would, please hold tight for me. There we are. Hi, everybody. I am not sure what has happened, but we're going to go with the flow. Okay, so welcome to Silk Masquerades. It is 7 p.m. and we are going to get started. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Last week we had a discussion about our children and the habits that sometimes they pick up from us. So that is what we talked about last week. And I'm so glad that you guys were able to join me. So, we are going to have a very different discussion today, and I'm going to move right along into that discussion because of the topic that we have. And it looks like my camera is frozen. No one's told me, you guys, if it's frozen, let me know. Yeah. It was frozen. So let's see if we can't fix that right quick. So I thought that last week's discussion was a very important discussion, and it was nice to have that discussion. So I want to thank you all for joining and checking us out on last week. But this week, we have a very different discussion, okay? So this week we're going to talk about surviving COVID. Most of you know someone or are aware of individuals that have been sick and have recovered. We know that so much is going on in the news in regards to COVID. So we want to jump right into that topic and kind of omit all of the other extras if you don't mind. All right. So, and I forgot my banners. So today we want to remind you to subscribe and like, and we want to see you in the chat. So make sure you let us know that you are here. And we have Devin. Hi, Devin. So glad to have you joining us this afternoon. And we have, it's my auntie. Hello, Mary Lou. So glad to see you here. Thank you for joining us. Today we're going to be talking with Eric and Larnita Covington. And we are going to bring them to the screen so that they can go ahead and let us know their story and what their experience has been. And so we want to go ahead and get started. Oh, look, it is Ethel Lee. Thank you for stopping by, Sister Lee. So happy to have you join us. All right. So this afternoon, like I said, we have Eric and Larnita Covington, and they're going to be coming on and talking with us regarding COVID. So we want to welcome them to the screen, okay? Welcome. Welcome, Brother Eric and
Wow, we
Larnita
got to get really close.
Covington. Yes.
Wow, we have to
we
get real closey.
yes, we're gonna be cozy. Thank you guys so much for joining us this afternoon. I'm so happy to have you. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Yeah,
Doing really well,
your
staying busy.
week started off well.
Allergies. Just
Oh,
allergies. I have
yes,
allergies. So
yes.
other than that, yeah, we've been busy. We have been busy.
I
Truly.
know exactly what you mean about the allergies. So, Sister Lee saying hello to you guys.
Hello, Sister Lee.
Hello, Sister Lee.
Hey.
It's my other auntie, Josephine. Hi. Hello, auntie. Thank you. Thank you guys for coming on and for actually commenting. I appreciate that. Hey. All right.
Hey.
So, Eric and Lanita, if you all would, tell us about yourselves, who you are, and what you do, and how COVID has impacted you and your family.
Wow, that's a lot to go through. You,
Ah.
you want to go first, man?
I'll go first.
All right.
My name is Larnita Covington. I'm married to Eric. We've been married for a long time. And I do remember. However, I am the church secretary at Calvary. I born and raised in California. We moved here probably about 16, 17 years ago. Um, and that's it. It seems simple, but I lead a very busy life.
Yes, she
Mhm.
does.
Very
She is
busy.
a doting grandmother.
Yes, I am.
Yes, she
We
is.
have a grandson who is 4 years old. His name is Liam. Very, he just lights up my world. He's very articulate. He loves to talk. He is a debater at this moment where he's asking questions and no one's know. He tells everybody he's a dinosaur expert. So,
Yes, yes, he is a
Oh.
dinosaur expert.
Okay. All right.
So, I am Eric Covington. As stated before, I am married to Miss Larnita here to my side. We've been married since 2004, so we'll be coming up on our 17-year anniversary, which was the
right.
same year that we moved our families to Suffolk in Virginia, in the Hampton Roads area. I am a retired naval officer. I served in the Navy for 24 years and took a year of just a break after retirement. And then I started my Master's of Divinity education at Regent University and graduated from there in really December 2019, but I actually walked in May of 2020, right smack dab at the beginning of COVID.
COVID, yeah.
And my daughter and I, she got her master's in communications. I had my master's in divinity. We walked actually and graduated together.
Mm-hmm.
And I am
Nice.
currently a chaplain resident. This is my second year of chaplain residency. I did my first year at Centera Norfolk General Hospital, and I am currently a chaplain resident at the Hampton VA Medical Center in Hampton, Virginia.
All right. Okay. So, with all these busy lives that you're leading, tell me how COVID impacted you and your family.
Well, I know I don't even know how to even begin or even start that. When the COVID came, it was like a fear. Just don't catch COVID. Do what you got to do. Come straight home. Take a shower.
Right.
And put on clean clothes. Put your dirty clothes away. You know, and that's what we had been doing because he worked at Centera at the hospital. He would come home every night. He'd take off his clothes in the garage, run upstairs, take a shower. We had a dirty clothes hamper in the garage that he would put his clothes in, and he would wash them. It would seem like everybody leave. He's getting ready to wash his clothes. That type of situation. I remember we went out of town. We came back July 5th,
January.
January, I'm sorry,
Right, yeah.
January 5th. I remember just not feeling good. I was like, oh, I'm tired. I felt like I was coming down with a cold. In the back of your head, you're saying, don't let this be COVID. This cannot be COVID.
Hmm.
And I remember laying on the couch downstairs. I could not get up. I had no intention of getting up. It was
Wow.
like my whole body just shut down. And I remember I was laying down. I couldn't even pick up my cell phone to be like, hey, I need for somebody to come downstairs and help me come upstairs. I just laid on the couch, and I had on jeans, a shirt, and a sweatshirt underneath that, and I had on wool socks, and I was freezing.
Wow.
And so my husband, when he was in the military, he brings back those big velour blankets, and we had those downstairs. And I remember just grabbing one, putting it over me, and then putting one on my at the bottom of my feet,
Mm-hmm.
and I was still freezing.
Mhm.
So
Wow.
he comes downstairs and he's like, "Babe, are you okay?" I was like, "I just don't feel good. I just don't feel good." He said, "You want some tea?" And I was sitting on the couch and I was like, "No, I don't want any tea." He said, "Are you sure?" And then I was like, "Okay, I'll take some tea." He said, "Go upstairs." So I went upstairs. I took a hot shower, and I got in the bed. And when I tell you that that's all I could do was just close my eyes and just say, "Lord, protect us." We called the doctor, and the doctor, at that time I had taste and I could smell. So he was like, "Well, you could probably just have the flu." And I was like, "Okay."
Okay.
He says, "But if you're not able to taste and if you're not able to smell, you need to contact us immediately." So I came downstairs. Eric was downstairs, and I came downstairs. I think I was getting some water or something. And I said, "I haven't eaten anything, so let me just put something on my stomach because I was going to take some medication." And I put some toast in the toaster, and I came back,
It
and
was
the
burnt.
toast was burnt,
Yeah, it was like on fire.
and we could not smell it
Nobody
at all.
smelled it.
No one
Nobody
smelt
knew it.
it.
Oh my
And then
goodness.
I said, "Okay." I asked him, I said, "Did you not smell this?" And he was like, "Oh, I think I smelled it just a little bit." He's in denial. And so I was like, so what I did was I was like, let me go ahead and just taste it. And if I can't taste it, then it's a wrap. And I remember taking a little bite of that, and I couldn't taste. I mean, and it was scorched. I mean, it had smoke coming out of it. That's just how bad it was. And I tasted that and could not taste anything. I went back and I told him, I said, "I had COVID." And then I took that Sunday, I went ahead and I got Friday, he didn't go to work. Um, and then the next thing I know, my oldest daughter, and praise the Lord, my grandson was with his father,
His paternal grandparents.
parents at the time. And so he was not affected at all. I mean, you don't want to say it worked out perfectly, but it did work out perfectly that he was not here.
Right.
And so all of us just came down
Mhm.
with it. And I can't, it's like 10 times the flu, where you can't move, you can't, your body is aching, your headaches. It was just, you don't even, people texting, calling to see how you're doing. I remember there was like probably 2 days where we just did not answer our phones or, our cell phone, the home phone. I don't even think we watched television because it was just get up, take your medicine, and lay back down. The doctor, they told us that we had to treat the symptoms. That's what we were doing,
Mhm.
was treating the symptoms.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So I would say we were in South Carolina over the New Year's Day weekend. We came back that Saturday, the second. Sunday, I know I felt a little off. The third, I felt a little off, but I was like, it's just a head cold. It's just that season. I normally, if I get sick, I may get sick one time a year. And so it may be a cold. So I thought it was a head cold. I went to work on the 4th of January and was feeling like I couldn't shut my body down from sweating after I got out of a hot shower. I just felt like my pores were open and I was wearing like a baseball cap to work just to make sure that my body was cooling down and just calming down. Larnita felt like she was getting sick on the 7th, which was about Thursday. Friday, I was looking at her and I was breaking out all the home remedies for a cold. We got the chicken soup out. We checked our medications, make sure we had, cough medication. We had pills for fevers and stuff like that. She got worse on Friday. We got to Saturday. Um, Now the interesting thing was like I got my first COVID shot on the 7th, that Thursday. So I had a COVID shot. I was working at the VA, visiting patients, but unbeknownst to me, I think I had COVID. Now, don't get me wrong, we were taking all the protections. We were masked up and social distancing and wearing eye shields and things
Right.
of that nature. But even still, I just thought I had a cold. So I got my flu shot, my first COVID shot on the 7th. Larnita was down hard that Friday the 8th. The weekend comes about, and my youngest, who was actually working as a nanny for a nurse who worked at Centera Norfolk General Hospital.
And she was in charge of setting up the different locations for COVID.
The COVID
Oh,
test?
wow.
Yeah,
Right.
for the COVID
So
testing.
she had some rapid tests. So the
Mhm.
girls, Erica, our youngest, and Tanisha, our oldest, and Larnita, they went and got a rapid test. She only had enough for them. And they came back that Sunday, the 10th, with a positive of COVID.
And she said, mine didn't even take, she said, I put it on the Petri little thing, and she said, and it came back instantly, just like that.
Right. So they knew on the 10th. I went to work and got tested on the 11th. Stayed away from work after calling, my bosses and whatnot and supervisors. Stayed away from work on the 11th. Got the result back. We had class on that Tuesday, the 12th. I received a call from the infectious disease doc at the VA who told me my test came back positive in less than 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And actually,
Wow.
on that same day, I started losing my breath. I started experiencing shortness of breath.
Mm-hmm.
So bad that after I had class that day from 8 to about 12:30ish, I also talked to the doc, and she was recommending that if my shortness of breath got worse, to go to the emergency room. So later that afternoon, I packed a bag because you could only go to the emergency room by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to the emergency room over at, I went to the Naval Medical Hospital here in Portsmouth, Virginia. And that was the hardest
Mm-hmm.
drive, the most loneliness, the most uh, gut wrenching drive
Mm-hmm.
because I had no idea whether I was going to come back.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a pre existing condition with my lungs called pulmonary sarcoidosis. So I had already a comorbidity. So my prayer was just to not be intubated. If I could go and not be intubated, because I had watched people being intubated, sedated, intubated, and having to have a trach installed and not coming out with good results, especially African Americans, being that I was at Centera Norfolk at the start of COVID. So I've experienced it from the opposite end, being a chaplain resident visiting patients on the floor and being with their families. But now I was now the patient. So that was like the loneliness, the loneliest, the longest walk that I ever had. I parked my car, wheeled my little bag in with me because I knew I'd probably be staying a couple of days if they admitted me, and went through the protocols of the hospital and was going to be examined. And I was cold in that room, but it's a negative pressurized room,
Hmm.
so it's intentionally cold. But all I could do was hold my Bible with me on my chest. That's all I could do, and just pray and just read scripture and pray.
Now, were you guys able to talk to each other, or were you on the phone? Any communication during this
When
time?
well, when he went to the emergency room, because I'm gonna back it up a little, I told him, I said, you have to call your mom and let her know what's going on. She knew we had COVID. Well, we told her
She knew you were feeling ill, but she
yeah, she
didn't
didn't
know
know
we
we had
had COVID.
COVID. And so on that day, I said, you have to call her and let her know. And so we were sitting across from each other, and he was eating because he was hungry, or he's trying to. And we called his mom and we told her what was going on. And I couldn't drive him. I was just beat. I was just beaten. I couldn't do it. In that situation right there, just them, he's telling her, Mom, I have to go to the hospital. I'm having shortness of breath and it's not getting any better. And she paused. And at that moment, I just started crying. And, because like he said, our African Americans, they go in, but they do not, it's very few that come out. And with his pre-existing condition, I was just like, Lord, I don't ask you for much, but I need for this man to come back home. I need for him to come home. So, they spoke, and there was a quietness, and she said, okay, baby. She said, I'll talk to you when you come home. That's what she said. I'll talk to you when you come home.
Mm-hmm.
And we hung up, and he and I just broke down. So he leaves. So back to the original question, he didn't call me for like about 2.5 hours, almost 3. I didn't know what was going on in between that time.
Yeah.
And so it was, those thoughts just come in your mind, like just crazy thoughts were coming in my mind. And I was just like, Lord, I just need to hear from him. My daughters were crying, checking the phones, and finally, I think after 3 hours, he called, and they had just put him in a room, and they were going to do x-rays. That they were prepping him for x-rays. And so, you try to get as much as you can out, and he doesn't know, but I'm like, he's got to know more than that. What are they saying, And
they really weren't saying much.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm crying on the phone, which doesn't make the situation any better. And so I think after that, another 2 hours go by, and I'm like, I call a good friend of mine, and I was telling her the situation. I said, I just need for you to pray with me right now. I need for you to pray. And so we prayed, and in the middle of that prayer, I get a phone call, and it was him. And I was like, I gotta go. And, I click over, and I'm like, babe, what's going on? Where are you at? He said, I'm on my way home. And when he said that, the only thing I could say at that time was just hallelujah. And the girls heard me, and they come running in the room, and they're like, what's going, and I'm like, he's coming home. It was like, it reminded me of when he would do his deployments and come back home, and how everybody was just so excited. And so because everybody was quarantined in their own room, we just of course I greeted him downstairs, but the girls were just standing up, and they were just like, Daddy, I'm so glad you're home. So they reminded me of little girls, just so excited. But we were so excited, and I'm like, okay, go get showered, get in the bed. I got the medicines on your TV stand.
Right. We didn't isolate because we both had COVID, so we were like, what's the use?
Yeah. Now, what did the doctors tell you the reason why they were letting you go home if you knew that you had shortness of breath?
The reason why is because they determined I had like a moderate, not a severe case of COVID that could be treated with just an inhaled steroid called albuterol. I got albuterol, Larnita got albuterol. Larnita bought the
The little,
breathing volumizer type
right.
devices that you get in a hospital if you have some sort of heart or lung type of surgery to try to build your breathing back up.
Hmm.
And everything else was
We
just
got the
regular
oxygen
cold.
thing for our fingers.
Yeah, we got the oxygen sensor for our fingers. We got that off of Amazon so we could check our
Hmm.
oxygen, see when it was getting low. And we didn't even have the energy to cook. And if it wasn't for the saints at the church who
You
brought
just do
us
not know.
just a brigade of
You
food
do not
and
know.
paper towel and just anything we needed.
You
Even
just
the
do
things
not
we
know.
couldn't even articulate. We could if you called us, we couldn't tell you what we need. We just said we're sick and just
Whatever.
bring. And we
Whatever.
set a little table outside our door, and every day
Hmm.
somebody brought something,
Hmm.
and we that's the food we ate because
Wow.
nobody had the energy to even prepare
So
a meal. We had food, but we didn't have the energy to chop a carrot.
I
Wow.
put I think our first meal that I had made, it was like I think, what was it? I had 2 cans of string beans, and I don't even know where those cans of string, because we don't buy canned vegetables. The only thing, and that's not vegetables, corn, but we do not buy canned vegetables. And so I was looking, trying to, gather my thoughts so that we can eat. And the only thing I could do was put rice in the rice cooker, do them string beans. I didn't add any salt, no pepper, no butter, no nothing.
Right.
And I was like, this is it. This is it. And we were, like he said, people were calling, and I just remember saying, whatever you can make,
Yeah.
whatever. I don't care. It could be just a loaf of bread. That would be fine. I
Right.
just,
And
I just need for us, and we had, like he said, we have food, we had snackies, we had the low fruit cups, we had the granola bars, we had the peanuts and all of that. We had fresh fruit, but we just could not, for a hot meal, we just could not. And
mm,
like I said, those individuals who came to our house, dropped food off, talked to us while I'm got the door closed and I'm in the window. They're like, "We're praying for you,"
yeah,
you know.
they really helped us out.
We
So
had
so
to.
how long were you down?
We
How
was down two
long?
weeks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say by the 14th day I'd say by the 10th day the symptoms were dying down. The 14th day we were able to actually leave our house.
They said that we could leave after 10 days,
Right.
but we just
So we took a little
stayed.
extra. I stayed out of work until the 1st of February. So I was stayed away from work for at least 21 days. That was the
Yeah.
policy. And the interesting thing is I got my second COVID shot, I think on the 8th of February.
Hmm.
Liam didn't come back until
Right.
mid-February. Um, and yeah, I think that was it. I can't determine when Erica went back to work. Our youngest went back to being a nanny, but it wasn't until uh,
Mid
mid-February. She
February.
had the
Yeah.
lightest case out of everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Tanisha had a pretty light case, but her predominant symptom was headaches. Larnita talked about the flu symptoms, and my shortness of breath was my predominant. I never
And
caught
the
the
cough.
flu. Everybody lost smell. Everybody
Hmm.
lost taste. Um,
And to this day, our oldest daughter, Tanisha, she still can't smell.
yeah, so
Really?
she's got a
Yeah.
lingering effect.
She still can't smell. My cough didn't go away. I had that for like 8 to 9 weeks.
Yeah, her
Mhm.
cough didn't go for at least 2 months.
Hmm.
So I think one of the best food that I ate during that period was an apple. Thank God that He
Really?
made apples. I know they get a bad rap in the Bible sometimes, but apples just were so
Yeah,
good
they
during
were
that
feeling.
period.
It was just like you can feel it in the oranges. We got a lot of oranges,
Yeah, the
and
oranges too.
the apples and oranges. But then when we were able to meet, I got to give a shout out to my girls, man. They, I guess I'm gonna say the names, but I won't say it. It was Sister Lee,
Uh-huh.
Regina Johns, Andrea, Salima, and Ebony. Those women, and then we had who was it? Jackie, and her husband, he made us some curry.
Jackie and Curtis, yeah.
Yeah, they made us some curry. But
Yeah.
I
Cheese and
mean,
rice, yeah.
after everything was done, where we could like actually sit down and eat, and then we really didn't eat after that because, and I think that for a while, for a minute, that was kind of a scary thought because we were like, okay, is it like totally gone? Is it going to come back? What is going on at this point? What is going on?
Yeah.
So now, how are you all doing now?
I think I'm doing pretty good, except for the COVID-20. That's what I'm trying to lose. I'm back to working out and getting some runs in. Just went running this morning, but being immobilized by that disease for a month and a half.
Yeah.
It takes a much longer time to come back, especially at the ages that we're at. So I really have no lingering effects. Just trying to work my way back for the most part.
That's
And
that's
I
great.
don't have, yeah, I don't have any lingering. The cough is gone. Praise the Lord. That was the worst. I think out of all of it, just coughing and the headache. But I don't have any lingering effects. I don't, at least, now we can say that, but you just don't know. But praise the Lord that we are all doing well. I think the only person who has that is Tanisha with her scent. She can't smell.
Wow. So good
Mhm.
to hear. So good to
Yeah.
hear. And so the expectation is that soon that will wear off for her as well, and you
Right.
all will be back to normal. So
Amen.
Praise the Lord.
that is
Mhm.
Praise the
that
Lord.
is awesome.
Mhm.
So to have someone and to see you guys, and because we know you guys, to know that you've actually experienced it and lived through it, because so many of us, like you said, we were just in fear of
Right.
what
Right,
of
right,
what
right.
this all meant. So I'm
Y-
so thankful. Yes.
I'm going to say this. There was one point, I think, when we realized that we could watch television. I think we were still down, 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 but we just needed something. I think we were watching cowboy movies. But I remember this one particular time, for some reason, it was on CNN News, and they were given the death count.
Mm.
And I remember looking at that and just breaking down, crying because when you have it, I know when I had it, I can't speak for anybody else. I was just like, Lord, preserve us because I am a breast cancer survivor. So, having that underlying issue, and I was just like, Lord, just thank you. You don't realize how grateful you are to wake up from a disease, that is just taking people out left and right. You know, we had
Right.
it for 21 days. There are some people who had it for 2 days and passed,
Yeah.
you know?
I
So,
have one couple, the husband and wife. They're over the age of 70. They both went to the hospital with COVID, and both were intubated. And when the husband was extubated, that's when he found out that his wife passed.
hmm,
Wow.
And just just tragic, tragic of
Mhm.
having to have to go through that. And I had been with him for a good couple of months. Just we were both just working his way through the grief of that situation. But I mean, just I can't imagine what it's like for a husband and wife, both actually nurses as profession. They retired from that profession to go in the hospital at the same time, be talking and texting to each other, and one wakes up and the other one doesn't.
hmm.
Right,
So we
right.
are very fortunate
Yes,
by the
we
grace of
are.
God.
Yes, we
Blessed,
are.
blessed indeed. And I'm
Yes.
Yeah.
so glad that you all were willing to share that with us, because some
Hmm.
of us, we see it, but we don't actually know anyone personally. Most
Hmm.
people know of people. So I'm
Right.
so glad that you guys are here and you're able to share your testimony, because that's a
Amen.
testimony
Yes, it is.
Amen.
with us.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So thank you all so much for joining us.
You're
If you could
welcome.
sit tight, we're going to talk right now to our medical expert, our nurse practitioner. We have Eunice Theodor, and we are going to bring her to the Silk Masquerade screen. Hello, Miss
Hey,
Eunice.
Val. How are you?
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having
Good.
me.
Absolutely. I am so glad that you're able to join us today. Now, listen, so our time is like fleeing.
Hmm.
So we just heard from Eric and Larnita, and they were sharing with us their experience, those symptoms, what they went through with COVID. Now, being that, before you jump in, I've got a couple people. Hi, that's Annie
Hey,
McGaney. Hello,
hey,
Sister
Sister
McGaney.
Lee.
And saying hello. Yes, Sister Lee is hello, Eunice.
Hey.
Oh, yeah, it's my other auntie, Viola. Hi. Thank you guys for stopping by. So glad to see you guys. Now, Eunice, what
Hmm.
what exactly is COVID-19, coronavirus? And, you know, we heard about the symptoms, but what are some other symptoms that you've seen that people are experiencing? What can you tell us about COVID-19?
Yeah, so to answer your first question, COVID-19 virus is a virus that initially was discovered in 1960s, I believe. Um, there has been various different cases, but there's different subgroups of the coronavirus family, and what makes it different from other viruses, the characteristics is just that spike that you see when they evaluate it under the electron microscope. I believe that's what they use. Just to give like a history of just viruses altogether, a lot of viruses that exist. The biologists estimate about 380 million that exist either within us or on our bodies or that we interact with. So not a lot of them are being researched, but we research is done on the ones that usually cause disease to humans. Corona
Wow.
initially was not something that was discovered in humans. It was like birds and mammals, and somewhere between our interactions, it is now discovered in humans and it's causing these subsequent effects. Viruses, they're basically genetic information that can go into our bodies and take and through interactions with live cells, they send the information through the live cells so that they continue to replicate and build up in our bodies. They have this lock and key mechanism that, dependent on the host, if they lock in or they fit properly, then they can cause a lot of issues. The inflammation process is really what causes different symptoms, and dependent on where it locks, that lock and key
Mm-hmm.
fits, like in our lungs or um, in our um, um, in our lungs, in our GI tract, it will cause different symptoms. So some of the symptoms that you may experience is the loss of smell and taste. That's one of the some of the common symptoms that you'll see from corona as opposed to the flu. Some people develop headache, runny nose, sneezing, coughing. All of those are symptoms that is our body trying to get rid of that foreign body. You can have diarrhea, nausea. A lot of the symptoms that I experience is fever, headache, loss of smell and taste, shortness of breath. That how it interacts with the lungs, it then becomes pneumonia, and then you have other complications.
Okay. So now listen, um, being that you are working in the medical field, you hear individuals that have talked about this third variant and how,
Mhm.
these other variants come about. Because sometimes, I know for me, I felt like, okay, I've made it safely through this phase, and now I'm hearing talk about these variants. So
Mhm.
tell me about the variants and how worried should we be? And in addition to that, talk about, the things that we can do to protect ourselves.
Yeah. So with viruses, they're known to mutate, and there seems to be several different variants of the coronavirus. The one that is more common now in the United States is the B117 that was initially discovered in the UK. And basically, with that genetic information, as I mentioned before, the genetic information, it gets, that information gets replicated by our cells, and sometimes through that copy, copying process, like a little bit of that information gets changed. And that's what the variant is that they're noticing just a little different, a little change in that genetic coding. And then it just causes the virus either to transmit easier, or the symptoms are worse. So that's what they're noticing with these variants, is that you either have more severe symptoms, or they're able to transfer from one person to another far easily and readily.
Okay. So now, what are some things that we can do to protect ourselves? Because what I found, or what I heard in reports, is that because most of us were pretty much wearing masks, we didn't have much of a flu season. So, are we still, the CDC guidance on that is still that we should, or what's the deal as far as if we're vaccinated or not vaccinated, and who should get vaccinated or who shouldn't?
Yeah. So to answer, I think your initial question, you mentioned about what we can do to protect ourselves, and there was another question.
Yes, about wearing the masks, avoiding the flu season and all that stuff.
Okay. So the flu season did happen. It happens every season. It's just that the dominant virus this for the last couple of years have been the coronavirus. So that's been our main focus because of the casualties. But as far as to protect ourselves, for those who are vaccinated, the CDC has information about those who are fully vaccinated can go out in the public and different settings without wearing a mask. Whereas those who are partially vaccinated or have not been vaccinated, they are still to wear their mask. Now, as humans, we have the tendency to still want to socialize and get together. So I know that a lot of the information that they're providing is considering our natural tendencies. But for the most part, if you're living by yourself, you can be a little relaxed on how you move in your home setting. But, people have gotten reinfected even after receiving the vaccine. And so my recommendation is that if you're around anyone that is, whether they are or not vaccinated, until, we're noticing significant decline, to still consider the initial recommendations of either masking or staying 6 feet or try not to have large gatherings, just things of that nature. But a lot of when it comes to viruses, is about our immune system being able to fight it. And so if we can understand the pathophysiology of the virus, how it works and how it interacts with our body, then we can really know what we need to focus on. But the main trigger is the inflammation that happens in our bodies, and it causes all of these different symptoms. So we have, what I typically recommend to other people is making sure that you're avoiding inflammatory, pro-inflammatory foods. So dairy, sugar, things that lowers your immune system, just be mindful of that. Meat products, monitor, try to limit that as much as possible. Drink a lot of water, try to boost your immune system with some of the essential vitamins, vitamin B12, vitamin C, you have zinc, vitamin D, drinking a lot of water, trying to stay away from juice, exercise, especially if you've been diagnosed with COVID. It's very important that you are exercising and doing pulmonary exercises. That means deep breathing in through your nose, out through your mouth, as much as you want to lay down because you're feeling tired, getting up and walking, because that is very important. It's almost like you can compare it to like swelling in your feet. If you massage your swelling in your legs or your feet, if you massage it, you kind of reduce a lot of the swelling that you are noticing, or elevating it. You're reducing the fluid that you're noticing in that area. And so that's what you're trying to do with the lungs, especially because fluid can build up there. And so that is, just some mild tips, but most importantly, just staying in communication with your PCP, because that is a trusted provider that you have selected or you have chosen to remain with, and just staying in communication. So if you're diagnosed with COVID, contact them, letting them know right immediately, so that they are aware of what you're experiencing, and should things get worse, they can guide you through it, because they're aware of where you are, what your status is.
Okay, all right. I think you answered this question. That's my cousin. Hi, Teresa. Thank you for
Uh-huh.
coming on. About how do you feel about not wearing a mask if you're fully vaccinated? And you told us about making sure we're aware of who we're around or outside.
Yeah, for me, I personally still wear my mask around other people, because, as I mentioned before, you can get reinfected. Now, you may not have, depending on the time frame, you may not have as severe of symptoms. But because of the setting that I work in, it's just very high risk, and I want to limit my exposure as much as possible, along with the people that I work with. So I have to be considerate. So the COVID pandemic has taught us not only to be considerate of ourselves, but also the people that we are around. And so while you may not have severe symptoms, if maybe for one day you've been exposed to the virus, and then you touch something and someone is not vaccinated, they touch it, or, they get the virus, and now they have a response to it that,
Right.
ideally you probably didn't want for them to experience. So.
Okay. Now,
So I'm
Teresa.
still wearing my mask, but
Okay.
you can consider the guidelines that the CDC has provided.
Yeah, I'm still wearing my mask too. But
Hmm.
so my cousin's asking, do you think you should get the COVID vaccination if you've been previously diagnosed with COVID? Like, if you've already had COVID, is it
Hmm.
necessary to get the vaccine? Should you?
So the CDC does recommend getting the vaccine, typically waiting until you're fully recovered. When you've had COVID, they estimate that you have some immunity for about 3 months. It may be longer, but with the vaccine, they're averaging about 6 months. For some people, it can be longer, but they're still collecting data. So what you're doing, so when you've had the COVID virus, you're building antibodies. So that means your body recognizes what it looks like, the characteristics of the virus. So next time you're exposed to it, it's able to recognize it quicker and be able to get a handle on it before it gets worse. So when you get the vaccine, you're kind of reminding your body, this is the characteristics we need to look out for, and this is what I need you to start attacking as soon as you sense it in the body. So.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Teresa, for that question. So
Hmm.
now, as far as the vaccines, there are lots of people who have concerns about the vaccine. So briefly,
Hmm.
can you share with us some of the pros, some of the cons in regards to vaccines, and where people should, if they're still having some hesitancy,
Hmm.
where they should go to get more information, so that they can decide if it is a good fit for them or not.
Yeah, when it comes to the information you find online, as many of us experience, you can find information through a lot of mediums. It just some of the websites that tend to be credible are the ones that are .org. So you want to hone in on that, on those links. CDC. A lot of information has been provided there. You have your primary care doctor or people who are in the medical field that can give you guidance on other resources that might be able to assist you in getting a better understanding of how everything works. As it relates to, you asked another question. I believe it was about the vaccine. Am I correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So with the vaccine, so again, the vaccine is, so when it comes, a lot of people are saying, like, I know a lot of people have conversations, they're saying they're introducing things that are not natural to the body. I mean, there are a lot of things that are not natural to the body. So when you drive your car, you're breathing in things that are not natural. When you're eating meat that has been processed, you're eating things that are not natural. Now, that I am not for or against the vaccine. I have my own understanding of it, and I move forward with my understanding to make a decision. And so in healthcare, I like to encourage everyone, no matter who you are, is to be informed, get the answers to the questions, and that makes you skeptic about the vaccine, and about some of the recommendations, and find someone that you trust. Because a lot of times our skepticism or our hesitancy about getting the vaccine comes from history and what we've experienced in certain cultures, what we've experienced as it relates to research and vaccines and the effects of that. You know, there's been people that have died, children that have died as it relates to vaccine, or people's lives that have changed, or the Tuskegee experience. So a lot of things are attached to some valid concerns, but we are advancing in our knowledge and our resources. And so things are changing, and we want to open ourselves to that information. The vaccine works basically borrowing some of the characteristics of the coronavirus. They're focusing specifically on the spike that is identified with the coronavirus. So they're just taking part of that virus. They're taking that information related to the development of that spike, and they're introducing it to our body. But they can't just introduce just that genetic information, because our body will break it down as soon as it sees it. So they have to protect the information so that it can get where it needs to be and trigger our body to trigger the immune response in our body. And so that's why they have to introduce proteins, or for the Janssen vaccine, they use a modification of the adenovirus. So part of that virus that we are aware of, or we've had information on, and so they're modifying it and producing it to the body, so our body can produce that spike protein. They can identify it, recognize it, familiarize themselves with it, because our cells can familiarize themselves with it, and then trigger the antibodies, which is those cells that are reminded of what COVID looks like. And so when they see that spike in any areas of our bodies, they can respond appropriately before things get severe. Okay. And so for those who are partially vaccinated or have the full vaccine, they have noticed either no symptoms, or they're not infected, or the days that they are symptomatic or they have these symptoms has been reduced significantly after receiving the vaccine.
Okay, all right. So that is our medical perspective. Thank you so much. We're going to bring not Eunice, but Eric and Larnita back up for final words. Any final words to share with us?
Oh, I would say that we're both vaccinated. Both of us have received the shot. I received the Moderna shot, and you received the Moderna shot as well. And I think, even though I work in the health field, when I had to sit down and think about it, the one thought that came to my mind, and it came to me, I didn't make this up, but one of the three doctors that was on the Allegheny East, they did 2 broadcasts about the virus last year, and one of the doctors said, you could take your chances. Take your chances in the hospital, or take your chances with the vaccine. And that, as well as being able to protect my family, those were 2 of the most important parts that helped me to make an informed decision, as Eunice had mentioned, about whether or not to take the vaccine, because people who are in the healthcare industry are not mandated to have to take it. And I think we see in the news story that there are some lawsuits coming up with nurses in hospitals about whether to be mandated or not. So that's what worked for me.
Okay. All right. Thank you, guys. And Eunice, any final words or thoughts to share with the audience?
Yeah, the most important thing I've been just encouraging everyone is gather information, right. Be open to credible information despite what has happened in the past. Consider your risks. Understand that when it comes to healthcare, um, that there are things that we are still learning. So have grace with those who are doing research and those who are in the medical field. We do the best that we can, but then after that, um, you have to just put your faith, you know, in Christ and whatever it is, whoever it is that you believe in. I think it's important, if COVID has not taught you, the importance of having a medical provider that is in the field that you can seek information from. A lot of people do not have primary care doctors. So when they got really sick, they got discharged out of the hospital and was like, follow up with your PCP. And everybody's trying to get with for their regular or their chronic issues, they're seeing their PCPs because they already have that relationship with them. And then now you have to now run around and find a provider. So it's very important to have a primary care doctor that you trust, because despite of all the information that you read online, you have this person that has your best interest in mind. And so I don't think that anybody comes into the field with the intent of doing anything malicious, although there has been, unfortunate cases, but just give them the opportunity to inform you of what's going on. If you have someone who does have COVID, of course, there's a lot of recommendations, but the most important thing you have to remember is get up and move and make sure that you're not eating a lot of junk food. It's very important that you understand. It was crazy, like during the pandemic, I would go into the supermarket, and it shows you how much people are doing things just based on just being told what to do, but they didn't understand why they were doing it. So, you would see ice cream and candy, and it's all gone, and nothing's on the shelf, or people put on gloves, but then they'll touch everything and then put their hands in a bag of chips and eat it, and you're like, what's the point of wearing the gloves? You're kind of defeating you're kind of defeating the purpose of the gloves. So it's very important that you're understanding if the recommendation was given, why is the recommendation provided, and what's the purpose, what's the intent behind it.
Okay, all right. Lots of
Eunice,
useful. Okay, Larnita.
I just wanted to say thank you, Eunice, for your service during this time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Eunice, do you recognize that name? Um, God's amazing. I'm so glad your family's doing better. So that is Eric and Larnita. I think that's directed to you.
Oh,
And
thank you.
yes,
Can
and
can I
yes,
can I add one more thing
of
that, as
course.
far as the COVID vaccine, you should, as it relates to getting the COVID vaccine, you can go to CDC to find information about it. There is Plan Your Vaccine, and on the CD website, there's a link where you can find the vaccines that are available in your area, and what type of vaccines that are available in the area. If you do get an appointment, it should not be charged to you, so you should not get a bill. You may get a bill to your insurance, but no bill should come to you, because taxpayers' dollars have been used to fund the vaccines so that they are free, and they're free at a significantly modified price that I'm sure it's going to circle back around about how we're going to pay for this. But if you do decide to get the vaccine, just be aware that there are people that are, you're taking that space is being used. And so, when it comes to data and what is available, that you keeping your appointment, it does affect the data that the federal government receives about the availability of the vaccines and things like that. So be mindful about that.
Okay, all right. And I think that's Sassy. And she's saying, Eunice, you did an excellent job. Thank you so much,
Thank you. Thank
Sassy, for
you.
joining us. Okay, well, you guys, I am so happy with the information, and thankful that you're willing to share the information and your experience, and the things that we can do to protect ourselves. So everybody out there, whatever your decision is regarding vaccine, whatever your decision is regarding your movements during the pandemic, just make sure that you are taking care of yourself, you're
Right.
protecting yourself and others, because
Mhm.
your movement also can affect others. So, however you
Mhm.
decide to survive this COVID-19 pandemic, please be informed and be careful, be well, and stay safe. All
Amen.
right.
Amen.
So thank
Amen.
you guys so much for joining. Teresa is saying thank you for the information, everybody. Larnita, Eric, and Eunice. So we want to
Thank
thank you
you.
all for joining us. Thank you
Welcome.
so much.
Yes. Thank you to Covington for sharing your experience. I am so
Exactly.
glad to see you guys are doing well.
We
Thank
are glad to
you.
see you as well.
Exactly.
All right. So you guys hold tight for me just a moment.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Well, everybody, we want to thank Eric and Larnita for sharing with us. That was so informative, and to actually hear a firsthand account of, what that experience was for them. I appreciate that so much, and I hope you guys were able to benefit from their experience as well. We want to thank nurse practitioner Eunice Theodor for coming and sharing information with us. And we're going to have her back to share some more information regarding COVID. And going to see if I can't twist her arm to come on and share her story a little later as well. She didn't know that, but, that's okay. So we are so happy to have her join us and to share that information with us. Thank you all so much. So I see we have Sharon is here. Hi, Sharon. Thank you so much for joining us. For some reason, it doesn't want to go on. I don't know. It looks like I'm frozen. Not sure what's happening. But thank you for coming and for joining us. So I can't get my comment to come up. So we are near the end of the broadcast, everybody. And I'm so happy that you were able to join us. And it looks like my screen is still frozen. This has been a day. I'm hoping that you guys can still hear me. So next week, you all, we have, oh, there it is. Now it's switched. I don't know what's going on. But Sharon McCorkle, thank you so much. Glad to see you guys are doing well. Thanks everyone for the broadcast. Thank you so much, Sharon, for stopping by. And we have C. Thank you for coming by and for sharing. She wants to thank everyone. So thank you. And then we have my cousin Lisa. Hi, Lisa. Thank you for stopping by. She's saying thank you for the amazing conversation. So we appreciate you all. So we have come to the end of another broadcast and wanted to let you guys know what is coming up next week. Next week, we have a young lady joining us, and my screen is doing all sorts of crazy things. But next week, we have a young lady that is coming, Kiva Dennis, and she is going to be joining us to talk about the plant based life. Okay? Because so many of us, we think about plant based life and we think it's expensive. And she wants to let everybody know that she actually spends less money on a plant based diet than she did when she was deciding to eat vegan or vegetarian. And all of those things, she found that she was able to save money going the plant based way. And so she's going to tell us all about her experience, you know, losing weight, all these health benefits that she found once she decided to try the plant based lifestyle. So I'm so happy that you guys joined us this afternoon. Thank you for taking the time. And I'm hoping that you can hear the music because I'm having all sorts of issues today. But that sound means that we've made it to the end of another episode. And I want you guys to remember to subscribe, like, and share. And if there's something missing in your smile, maybe it's time for you to bloom where you're planted and then come tell us about it, okay? Let's get into it, all right? Have a good evening, everybody. Peace and blessings. Bye.